Alrighty, so XNodes. Let's go dive right into the slides here. Let's see, come on. Okay, so again, a little bit of introduction for those that weren't on my presentation earlier. I'm Q. I currently work for Tesseract. I'm also on the board of directors for G Central. I'm an administrator for the LabVIEW Wiki. I do my own side consulting under Q Software Innovations, which is what this presentation is written under. This is my own stuff that I did even before I joined Tesseract. And then I'm a LabVIEW architect and a LabVIEW champion. So if you want to get a hold of me, there's my email addresses, depending on what aspect you're getting a hold of me for. Yeah, Alan, XNodes don't exist. Well, sort of. I'm also on LinkedIn, Twitter, and just about all the other LabVIEW community places you can find me. The LabVIEW guide that I have right here, that's my avatar for most of those things. So, all right, so overview, I'm going to give a disclaimer, talk a little bit about XNodes, why I dove into it, and then talk about a specific XNode I've created called the class method node. So, disclaimer, play at your own risk. XNodes are not generally open to the public. There is a special license for NI to be able to create them, which they don't give out to the public. So even though they're part of the G language and there are unofficial ways to create them, just be cautious if you do mess with them. Make sure you do a lot of testing before you decide to put them in any production code. So there's my disclaimer. So NI does create XNodes for use, like the error ring, that's an XNode. Match regular expressions is an XNode. Database variant to data is an XNode, and so is the time looped. The parts on the time loop are actually XNodes. So it's not like it's just some obscure part of the G language that never gets any use. NI does create these to solve certain problems internally and do release those as part of the language. So, so a little bit about XNodes. XNodes are a technology built clear back in LabVIEW 8.0. It allows you to basically create specialized nodes on the block diagram and allow the user to interact with those. Under the hood, they're a library with special VIs that fire based on events that execute from the IDE. For example, when the user clicks on the item, or when the user maybe drags the item to be bigger, or things like that. Ultimately, though, there's a lot of code that deal with that interaction between the user during edit time. What actually gets created for runtime is there's an ability that scripts code, and that code is what gets called in execution at runtime. So they're not natively open in the LabVIEW IDE. In Windows, it requires a special license. For Mac and Linux, there's actually a configuration item tag, INI or whatever, that you can put in to unlock these. But there is a backdoor way to create these, and it's Brian Hoover's XNode editor that you can get from Lava, and here's the link for it. And Brian has done presentations in the past on XNodes, so there's quite a few that he's created. There's quite a few published on Lava that he's created and others have created, so you can find more information about these. So XNodes approximately have 51 different ability VIs that you can create. If you want to know the whole list, you can go to the LabVIEW Wiki and see the whole list. Let's see. Sorry, I wasn't watching the time loops aren't XNodes. It's the external parts that attach to the time loop. So the ability VIs are, like I said, I decided to list several of them that I used. Like the state, that's really a control that is your state from iteration or from kind of like run to run. Initialize is what happens when you first drop it. Adapt to inputs is what happens when you wire something into it. All of this you can like script. So when someone wires into it, then there's certain information that you can get from the IDE about the data type of the wire and stuff, and then you can script what you want to happen based on that. Build menus is when they right-click on the XNode. Select menu is when they select an item from that menu, and then ultimately generate code is what you have it code to be the execution code at runtime. Couple of others on operator click, you can define on auto tool regions, you can define specific regions that you want different interactions of based on what they click. For example, on mine, you'll see I have mine act like an invoke node, where if you click on a certain region, then the menu pops up and lets you select the method, just like an invoke node would with the VI server. Get bounds, get image, and get terminals are all ones that define how to like draw the item and show the item on the screen. So, and there's plenty more to go look up, but these are the important ones that I had to use. So, so like I said, in edit mode, the XNode, when the XNodes dropped on the block diagram, those ability VIs fired depending on different things, and they each get their own context of those, their own clone of those, that runs in the ni.labview.xnode context. So it is a separate context from other places. And then based on those interactions, you can also publish as an output a reply. And a reply is just an array of strings, but those refer to other named states that could execute other ability VIs. So you could have one ability VI basically call another ability VI. Ultimately, though, what runs in run mode and gets deployed as part of your application is just the scripted code that gets created with the generate code ability. And it acts just like a sub VI call. So really, you can have all of this complex code to deal with the interaction, and the ultimate under the hood VI could be something really simple. So really, I don't think these are as like dangerous as like XControls are. So, alrighty. Another thing that will be helpful is if you go into the LabVIEW INI and you put this tag in, the XNode wizard mode equals true, that gives you a special right-click option to be able to see and interact with some of these ability VIs that helps you when trying to debug them. This is something that you can enable and look at the error ring VIs or any of those others to see what they're doing. This isn't locked out. This is something that you can put in even on Windows. And it's helpful if you're going to create your own. You need this turned on to help you debug your own. So why did I start creating an XNode? So you probably heard me reference, I made the QControl toolkit, which is a replacement for XControls. And I wanted the ability to make it easier to interact with those. So right now, the QControl toolkit wraps up all of the built-in properties and methods. Well, you can, just by native LabVIEW, you can drop a property node, wire a QControl class wire into it, and access all of the properties just like you would if you wired a VI server reference into it. I wanted that same ability to see all of the methods. And I think this is something that we've all asked for before. And I can't remember all of the ins and outs of why they basically said, no, you can't have it. But I ended up just doing it anyway. So Invoke nodes right now don't accept class wires, but property nodes do. And so I wanted to create an Invoke Node-like thing that accepts the class wires. So I started looking into it, and I did create the class method node. And it is available on vipm.io, and I'll show you some more about it. But what's cool about it is I also made it so that it could handle by reference classes too. So you could wire a class wire into it, or you could wire a, by reference DVR wrapped class into it, and it scripts accordingly and lets you see the methods. And then depending on where you drop that class method node, it knows if that VI is also owned by the class. It knows if it's owned by a class that is a friend of another class, all of that. So it gives you, in the dropdown, you can see, it gives you only the methods that you should be allowed to call based on the context of where it's dropped. So, you can automatically see all the public, but the community, protected, private, obviously are going to be only displayed based on the rules that should be there. And you can just wire to it the class, and that selects the class. And then left clicking selects the menu. There's also some right click property node, or a property dialog that can let you see all of these things too. So there's a page in the property lets you see the appearance. One of the things that you can change is whether you want it to look like a constructor, a destructor, or a method. It tries to guess, and I'll show you that in a little bit. But if it can't guess, you can basically just set it. And that's more for kind of self-documentation, to let someone know that it is a constructor, a destructor, or just a method. You can select the class in here, the method, and then you can also configure the method. And what configuring the method does is, I programmed a pretty extensive algorithm to try to guess, okay, which connectors are the class wire in and out, which ones are the error wire in and out, which ones are other inputs and outputs, are those other inputs and outputs required or not. It tries to gather all of that information. If for some reason it does get it wrong, you can come into this property dialog and change it and fix it. I think it's pretty good, but if it somehow doesn't do it, then you can fix it. Also, you can right click on the glyph. So going back to this picture right here, you can see that that's showing the arrow. It's probably pretty small. I'll show it again later. It's showing the arrow as a method. There's also a different glyph for if it's a constructor, or a different glyph if it's a destructor, and you can just click on that just to toggle it. It really doesn't have any effect. It's just for, view self-documentation kind of thing. Then ultimately in the generate code, it's generating either just dropping the VI, the method, and wiring the inputs and outputs. So really you're just calling it's a wrapped sub VI basically. Or if you're wiring the DVR, the by reference class into it, then it also scripts the in-place element structure with the DVR read and write. I don't know, I can't remember off the top of my head right now if I have the DVR read and write, if I allow you to do the, what's that called? My mind's gone blank. Where you can do the multiple parallel reads. I don't think I have it set up to do that. That's something that I could add. Maybe it would be a feature that you would have to right click and say that you wanted, or it would have to be a something in the property dialog or something like that. But right now it doesn't do the parallel reads. It's always a locked DVR. But after that, there's little difference between calling, say, my class method browser than calling the direct method, because that's really all you're calling in the end. So is this able to get around the DVRs only by class method option? I think that if you tried to open the scripted code from that flag that you add so that you can see the debug the stuff, if you tried to open the scripted code from that, then it shows as broken. But if you don't, then it allows it, because, so I don't know. I haven't had it error out because of that, Derek. So I think it does get around it, sort of. But like I said, if you tried to open that scripted code using the debug, then it shows up as broken. But I think it executes. So I don't know what kind of trickery I'm getting away with there, but it might be just a fluke. I don't know. I think it's okay though. So why use it? If you're going to use my class method node and you trust it to use it, it's easier to use. Like, one of the things that we've always had problems with is when we have a class wire, how do we find the methods we can use on that wire? MGI came out with the class method browser. That helped. Later on in, I think, that'd be 2018, I think, is when they added the right-click menu option that shows you all of the methods that can be called. The problem with that one is it not only gives you the methods, it gives you all of the accessors. And so it could be a really big list. Mine takes all of the accessors out as being properties that you would access through the property node instead. So it filters those out. And the fact that this takes care of that in-place element structure to do the DVR reads and writes is very helpful. Now, some caveats. There is a potential problem with this class method node. If you go edit the method under the hood, there's no feedback back to my code that says that something in that like if you edit the connector pane. If you didn't edit the connector pane, no big deal, nothing, no big problem. But if you edit the connector pane of the method that it's calling, there's nothing to fire to tell the XNode to rescript because the connector pane has changed. So where does that end up being a problem? Well, if you change the whole data type and it breaks, well, it's going to say that the run arrow is going to be broken, and it's going to say that there's a problem with that XNode. So all you have to do is go in there, tell it to change to a different method, tell it to change back, it will rescript, and then it will be fine. The kind of insidious part, though, is if you were to change like the representation of a number, it would if it can coerce, it's just going to coerce under the hood in that scripted under the hood VI, and you'll never know that it had a problem. So there's some things that I wish I could figure out a way to around that. There is an ability VI that's supposed to let you be able to pick up on changes like that, but it doesn't work without, I think, without some massaging from someone internal that has the thing unlocked. And so I've never been able to make that work. One of the things I did add to this project, though, is there's a lot of Karaya unit tests to make sure things are working correctly. But it doesn't test for that coercion dot. So that's just something to be aware of. I'm thinking maybe in the future, I had a thought today that in the right-click menu, I ought to have just an update option, so that when you right-click and hit update, it just fires the rescripting, and then it's fine. I don't have that yet in this version, but that's something that I'd like to add. So this is pretty quick amount of slides. I'm going to turn around and go to the code, though, and show you it and let you ask any questions you want to ask. And then we'll just see from there. Here's a couple of links, though. The XNode editor is available on Lava here. Lots of XNode information is available on the wiki. Brian Hoover wrote a lot of these pages, and I've added to some of those with this project. My code is on GitLab here, but I've also created a VIPM package, and the XNode is available there. You can just search for class method node or look for things that I've published there. Let's see, got a couple of questions here. Will the block diagram be sluggish? Is there, if there are many XNodes in it at edit time? I don't know. I know that I had in some other code that I had reviewed by Darren, I had the error ring control in basically if some situation happened, I had a select, and I had if the thing was if the something happened was true, then replace the error with the error ring with my own error and error description, and if false, just pass the error through. And I had those in a lot of places. And Darren told me that if I did it that way, then that error ring fires every time. And if I put it in a case structure instead, then if it's the no error case, basically don't replace the error, then it is optimized better. So I don't know if it's really sluggish on your code, but he suggested that I make that change to make the runtime better. Now in edit time, I don't know. I think nothing's really firing unless you're interacting with it. See, what did you say, Matt? See. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, under the hood, it's all scripting code, so it just depends on how performant that scripting code is. Really, there's not much running in the background until the user interacts with it, whether they're clicking on it or whatever. You can have, I think there's ability VIs that you can have it do stuff when you're moving it around even. So as long as you don't have a lot in that, I don't know. Yeah, technically they don't have to redraw frequently. It just depends on what you have in your ability VIs. Yeah, I have mine does grow, but it doesn't grow by having to drag it, and maybe that could be an issue, Matt. Yeah, mine just after you select the node, then it knows how to redraw to have the whole method there. Yeah, it could, depending on how many abilities and how many you're firing at once. But I think most of the time it's only when you're interacting with that node. See, you've done user sizable nodes. Yeah, you have to take a look and let me know if that causes any problems. I don't know. Alrighty. Okay, there's a couple of links on my Q controls. You can download it from vipm.io. I have a page on the wiki, and then if you have any questions about Q controls, you can go to the NI forums, and there's a Q controls enthusiast page, and then you can check that out. Okay, I'm going to show you some code here. Oh, one more slide. Just some user community links of where to find more information. Obviously, GCentral, Lava, the wiki, GDevCon. I guess I need to add GDevCon NA to this slide for the North American GDevCon. But all right, I'm going to switch to showing you some code here. So here is my class method node code. I have it over here on my second screen, so I'm going to look over at this. And you can see here that there's the XNode itself, and it's locked. So, I mean, it's a library like any other library or the X controls or any of those. So there are VIs underneath this, but you can't see them because the XNode is locked. But if I came in here, I actually went and got Huva's editor, and I just added it to this project just for this example. I'll open it up, run it. Say I want to open an existing XNode. And let's see, it's opened up on my other screen. Hold on one moment. So I'm going to class method node here. And then I got to go find the XNode and open it. So now here is all of the ability VIs that I've programmed. And some of them do quite a bit of stuff to draw things. Let's see. I wonder if it'll let me show you. Yeah. So like this one's what to happen when they right click on it. So here's the information that's coming in, my state, if what type of menu it was, like I can't remember all the options here. I think it has if there's multiple things selected, which I chose not to worry about. If there was a right click or a left click. So here's building the menu on a right click. If it's a left click, it checks to see if it's in the right location and says, okay, I'm selecting a method. Otherwise, that adds the methods. If no methods exist, then it just says so. Let's see. What other, is there any abilities you'd like to see? Probably the generate code one. This is the one that is actually generating all the code under the hood. It determines the connection type. So it can say, do I need to do an in-place element structure or not? And then I have code this is not doing the in-place element structure. So it's, let's see. Now this is trying to decide if it needs to do the in-place element structure, set the DVR, some other things, generate the, let's see, which one's that? Generate the connections. So that's generating all of the controls and indicators, cleaning up the block diagram kind of stuff. This other one is all the scripting code that, sets the DVR data type. There's the generate in-place structure. So this is the one that's actually doing the in-place structure. Merging errors, all that sort of stuff. So anyway, I mean, I could go through and show you a lot of these, but suffice it to say, these are controlling all of the interactions. So I'm going to go into my example code here in my unit test. And so I have several test classes here. I have by value a parent, a child, and a friend. And I have a by reference set parent and a child. And then I have some VIs that aren't in the class. So you can see that if this is the VI that's not in the class, it's opening up over here. Okay. And I come in here and I say, okay, I want the parent class. And I'm going to come in here and get the class method node. And I don't know why it generates the icon the way that it did for my palette, but just ignore that for now. But okay, I just wired the class into it. It knows it's the by value class. I can come in here. Okay, I want, a dynamic method that's read only. You can see it doesn't have the output because it's read only. And then actually, let's see if I did end up handling that. So you can see here's the XNode wizard, and I can take a look at the generated code. So there's the generated code. Oh, this isn't the by reference one though. So this is ultimately what gets executed. It's really just this sub VI just wrapped around my method. If I go in here and I switch it to, let's see, the standard one, then you can see my inputs and outputs, and I could wire it on to another one. Now, one thing that I decided to create, and this is partially for use with my Q controls, because all my Q controls have a constructor and a destructor associated with them. So I created a method called a constructor and a destructor with these. And so if I said I want the constructor, this ends up being broken because now it doesn't need this, really. It just used it to define it. And now this is my constructor. And so if I go in and I look at the generated code of my constructor, this is what it generated. And so really it's just a wrapper around my constructor with that. I can double click on this and see here's the method that's getting wrapped, which doesn't really do anything, but it's just an example. And then I could have it do something, do some methods, and then at the end I could say, okay, now I want to fire my destructor, and then there's my destructor. and it didn't change the glyph on there, so I'll just click on it until I get the destructor glyph. And I'll wire my error wires through just for the sake of doing it. And I don't have any that I don't have any to show that I programmed that show something happening. I did have it one time, but I couldn't find them. Where I just programmed a quick pop-up in one of these methods. Actually, maybe I could just show that simply by, let's see, I wonder if I edit. This is the, let's change it to, now the reason why I said standard and non-standard here, standard, I basically put this was testing my algorithm where things got put in the right place. So this would be considered standard, where the inputs and outputs of the class are the top left and right corner, the inputs and outputs of the error, the bottom left and right corner. I wanted to test if my algorithm was working, so I made a non-standard one. And if we go look at the generated code from that one, you can see that they're all over the place, but it figured out which ones were which. If it got it wrong for whatever reason, I could come right click into here, go into properties, put my property window clear over here. All right. And then go into configure method, and then I could set, no, this isn't the class in, this is the error in, or whatever. So cancel that out. See, do you lose the debug stepping into ability, this XNode approach? What do you mean? Yeah, I don't think it will let you. I don't know for sure. Well, this VI doesn't do anything, so let's just add some. See, is it Control D? Yeah, I don't care. It's messy. I'll just add some things here, and I should be able to run it. So let's take a look what it will do. Run. Let's see. Let's step into. See, step over. Yeah, see, it's not letting me step into the node. Just lets me step over the node. So it doesn't let me step into the method. Now, one way around that would be, as long as the, well, I don't know if the method's a clone. Well, even if it is a clone, if you put in a stop, here, I'm just going to stop my VI with a tree here. Let's see, static method. Let's see, the non-standard one. Here's the VI. It's really not doing anything, but here, let's put in a hello world message or something. Create constant hello world. And let's put in a breakpoint on the stop wire here. Maybe. Come on, computer. Set breakpoint. All right. Save that VI, close it. Let's see, that's okay. Let's run this again. So can't really step into it, but we'll do it, and then the breakpoint comes up. Now I could debug there from that point if I needed to. So I could turn this on and say, okay, run this. Hello world, okay, it popped up. Continue, and it's done. And then it does the destructor. So you could still debug it. It's just not as easy as being able to step into. So, okay, I showed this one where it was a VI in the class, and you could see only this VI wasn't in the class. Let's see, where is that? The VI. Yeah, this VI is not in the class. You can only see the public. Let's close this. Let's go into, let's see, let's go into this friend VI. And it's, so I've got a friend of the class, and I've got the by value test class in here. but this VI is owned by this test friend class. If I look at this, not only can I see the public ones, but I can also see this one, static method community. And if you look in here, there's static method community. So it knows the context, so it knows which ones are allowed. If I do it one more time with the child, I'll go into the VI owned by the child. And I will drop the class method node. And then I will put the child class constant here. And you can see not only does it show the child class's methods, it also shows the parents' methods. So, alrighty. So like I said, all of the code behind this is locked in that XNode library, and I had to use that special editor of Huva's to be able to edit those. But after I did that, then really it's pretty safe to use, because under the hood it's just a sub VI wrapping that method pretty much. And except for the caveats that I've already said, and I think what I will do to help people get around that is, if they do have the class and then let's put the class method node back down. I think I want to add something to the right-click menu that's just a quick update. I do have a couple of things in this, like you can tell it to select the class, and then it'll pop up the dialog. You can tell it to select the method this way instead of a right-click, and it will show you all the methods that it can access. That did not work in this instance. I will have to figure that one out too. It's probably because of the class that this VI belongs to. Let's go back to the not owned by a class one here. Anyway, coming in here, I want to add just a quick update, so that it can that would cause it to fire and rescript if it had a problem. Some other things you can do too is you can tell it to disconnect from the method or disconnect from the class. You can also tell it to replace, so it will replace this the class method node with the actual method. So I can say, okay, replace it. Now it's the actual method. So you can see. I wonder, yep, undo works, so that's good. Let's see. I don't know if anything else to show you on this. Is there any other questions about XNodes or this particular XNode you want me to answer, or other ideas that you have? The scripted results of calling a private VI. Yes. So like if you were in the class, and so there are private only methods in here. So I'll go into it here. Looks like I was messing around with this one earlier. So I have the by value parent class here. And then you can see, actually I already have it selected, but you can see in the list that you also have the private method showing. So these get filtered out when they're not allowed. Oh, you want to, I think I misunderstood your question. Can you open up the scripted result of the private method? Yeah. So actually what you want to see more so, Derek, is the by reference class, right? Maybe we should try that. So see, what was your question earlier? It was, here, we'll delete this out. We'll put the class method node down. Even by value. Well, let's try the by reference now that I'm here. Let's add this by reference class. Well, actually, we want, yeah. So the constructor is really just wrapping the VI, and then there's the by reference. Let's see. There's the by reference class that it's wrapping up. And there's the code, so you can tell that there's the class and it's the by reference class. And then we know that this VI is not in the class. And so we want to put another class method node down and pick a method. Let's just pick the standard, my standard method here, and then take a look at the code. Something's not right here. It looks like wait. This should have created, shouldn't it have created the, I'm confused now. I'm thinking that that should have created the wrapper. Because this is the, what is coming out of this? This is, no, this is the actual class wire. We want the, is it? Let me script this. Oh, there's something broke here. All right, well, I've got some more to fix, it looks like. Because what, it couldn't wire it. Well, it did wire it, but then when the block cleanup stuff happened, it got rid of that broken wire. So something's broken. This object should have been a DVR reference of it when it got scripted. Something's wrong with the scripting. So I will have to take a look at that. Because what should have come out of here is the DVR reference wire, not the other part. Let's delete that. Let's just go get the reference. Let's see. Let's get the constructor so we know that it's the reference wire. So there's the reference wire, not the class. And then we'll take a look at the scripting of this, and it may or may not have worked. We'll see. All right, well, it did work, but like I told you, it's showing up broken here. Now, was it broken before I opened that? I don't know. We'll find out. So if I add the things, see, it says it's happy. So you're asking, see, what about a private value call? Well, that would have to be done in the class, right? So let's go try that. So if we go to VI actually owned by this class, I do have a static private method here. It doesn't do anything, it's just that. So let's go into this class. Let's see, because my constructor is not scripting right, let's just drop the constructor. And then let's put down a class method node and wire the constructor into it. All right, and then select a method. Let's just select, I don't know, let's see, we wanted a private method, right? Yeah, you always end up having to revisit stuff, right? All right, so this private method, I've selected it, doesn't have any inputs or outputs, which is okay on methods. You could just have it do something. Let's go look at the scripted code that it generated. Okay, it's not happy at the moment in here, but if you notice, my run arrow is happy. So if I were to come into this, let's see, static private method, And let's just put in a hello world or something in here. Create constant hello and close that. I should be able to run this and see the hello. So it does run, but if I try to look, that's what I was trying to describe earlier, that it actually runs and doesn't show broken. But if you try to go look at the scripted code, then it shows broken, but it runs. So so you want me to pass a value through it and not just silently? What do you mean? I'm not quite sure. Oh, so you want me to wire something through this class? Can I hurry and do that? Let's see. How quick can I program on the fly here? Let's put in a string and save that. And then let's put in the private method. Put it in here, you think? Is that what you're thinking? Like put an input to this? Bundle. Let's see how are we doing on time. Oh, my time's pretty much up. Let me hurry and do this. And then, oh, unbundle it out of the class here. Like maybe add a default value. Okay. Okay. All right. Remove unbundle. Create indicator. Let's see which we have if it errors. I guess we could just get rid of this thing. Remove the case structure. Okay, so there's my output. Okay, and then I need to go add a default value, which will say Derek wants this. We'll make sure that data operations make current value default. Okay, see, I changed the connector pane and it didn't rescript, so I need to go force it to rescript. That's why an update. Let's see, where is the private? There we go. Create. I don't have the right-click create indicator working. Just create them all with the shortcut. Okay, so hopefully the string out will be the default value, right? And there it goes. So it did get the value out of it. Now, granted, this is a VI. Well, in order to get the private method, it has to be a VI that's owned by the class. So it should work. I wouldn't understand why it wouldn't. So I know that's probably the end of the time we have. You're free to ask me questions on any of the forums or whatever. If you have more questions, you can email me or whatever. Derek, if you want to stick around, you can share your mic. We could probably talk for a minute if you want. But thank you, everyone. Hopefully this has been helpful, interesting to learn about. One of the things that they basically call the rusty nails of LabVIEW, and you can actually go look up rusty nails on the LabVIEW wiki to understand where that reference comes from. But it's basically, if you want to play around in the attic of LabVIEW, there's a lot of cool things you can do, but you just have to know where those rusty nails are, and if you want to know how to avoid them. So, all right, thank you all. Derek, do you want to get on and talk more, or do you need to run? There we go. Hello.
All right, I think this is working. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Well, see, I think I got to the point where I would look at the scripting result and saw broken arrows and go, oh, well, of course this doesn't work because the scripting result isn't part of the class member, isn't part of the class itself. So it's going to fall. But yeah, it just does, I guess.
Yeah, it works as long as, but it's going to show up as broken when you look at that scripted code. So
I wonder if I was generating extra errors that I didn't need to actually generate.
But yeah, I have something that's not scripting the output right on that constructor. So
because I was working on a node that was basically the unbundle, unbundle by name, but it would work on classes or clusters or DVRs of clusters or DVRs of classes and classes that nested DVRs. And I was running into some issues, and I think I looked at it and went, "Oh, well, these wires are broken. Well, it's not letting me do this." But just run it, and it might have worked.
It let me do it. Yeah, but you can see when I go in and I look at the generated code, it shows up as broken.
I'm assuming you have the get errors ability.
Did I override that one? I don't know. Let's see. Let's open this up again and see. Let's see. Open existing XNode. Where is that XNode library? There it is. Needs to put these in like alphabetical order or something. This is all open source. I could edit his.
Okay, yeah, there it is. Get errors 3.
What's that?
Get errors 3.
Oh, yeah.
Like the 5th one down.
I don't think I have it doing much though. No, I don't have it doing anything.
Okay.
Is that something I should have been catching?
I don't know. I think I am, just to verify that the scripting generated a good result, but it looks like you don't actually need to.
Yeah.
That's good information. I mean, I looked at it, saw a broken wire, and went, oh, yeah. Okay.
Well, this editor, when you run it, you can go select what ability you want, and then it scripts you a VI, and then there's no good way to get rid of it afterward. So I think I had it scripted thinking I needed it, decided I wasn't doing anything with it, and it just sort of got left. So,
but like if in your constructor VI, can you put a non-default value into that string?
What do you mean? In the constructor itself?
So put an actual non-default value into the class wire.
Okay.
So yeah, bundle by name right there in the class before the DVR.
And just create a constant and
I mean, I'm assuming you've done this on your Q controls, and it's gotten the stuff in and out of them that it expects.
It's always seemed to work.
Yeah, okay. That's
right, let's take a look. Okay, so I got that in there in the constructor. And so what we're expecting out here is the new string, not the default string.
Yeah.
And we run it. And yep.
Okay, that is awesome. I'm so mad now that tripped me up. I've been asking like Darren and Steven about how to work around that problem.
And they probably said, don't mess with those?
Yeah.
Because anytime
they said that there was no way to work around that, private class member access issue, because that would break all sorts of stuff.
Well, what do you mean? Because this technically is, well, I guess you're saying that obviously the static method that
the fake VI that generates, that is the runtime code, isn't part of the class that it's wrapping.
That's true. But it's
its block diagram.
Oh, but it's wrapping this private method, so technically that private method shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah.
Because that scripted under the hood method isn't part of the class.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so that's why that's why those wires are broken.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that would gonna prevent me from working on it. But it looks like it doesn't. Just ignore
No,
those.
it's probably that.
So if you like turn on context help.
Yeah, I've got context help over on my other screen. Is that
I'm trying. It's been so long since I've looked at that now.
it says you have two different terminals because it didn't script this right. It didn't set the data type right. See, these aren't set right either.
Oh, okay.
It didn't now, but under the really what's getting scripted under the hood is correct. This is incorrect. What it's showing me is not correct.
So what's that VI there?
That VI is the private method. It is the right method.
Oh,
but this
okay.
is the wrong data type.
It just pulled the wire out of the wrong side of the icon?
No, it's instead of this being the class, it's showing up as a double instead of the object inside of this DVR. So here's the context help. So if I hover over this, it's saying it's the wrong data type. You've got an object here and you've got a double here. But
then that VI in the middle
is the
correct. Can you double click that and will that open up that sub VI?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is weird.
It is the correct sub VI that it put in here.
Okay, but it pulled that string value out of the wrong side. That's why I was confused.
Oh yeah, it did pull that string value out of the wrong side. And that I don't know if that's a problem with my scripting or what, but well, let's see if we just hit cleanup wire, cleanup diagram. But still, I don't know why this is wrong, but it's almost like this is a view that it's giving you of what it's scripted, but it's not necessarily what is actually scripted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because what's actually scripted runs and works.
Yeah.
And gives you the right values out.
This is cool.
Although,
this definitely let me...
you better not tell anybody because that might be a fluke behavior that they don't want.
I would imagine it almost has to work for like some of the FPGA functionality that this stuff is built around.
Yeah. Because I know what you mean. That what's scripted here, if this was really a sub VI that gets scripted, this sub VI isn't part of the class, so it shouldn't be allowed to access this private method.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. But I noticed I noticed that this came up broken, but this didn't. And so I just started playing around with it and running it, and it worked. So I'm like, well, then it's something wrong with this menu that's letting you see the generated code, because that's not actually the generated code. In fact, look, that just proves our point. It just re-scripted it, basically, because it's not cleaned up anymore. So it's almost like that menu almost scripts you a view on the fly. Let's check that. If I save this, I don't know if I saved it. No, you can't save it because it's the XNode debug window. So there's nothing to save. So, okay. So I can't really save it, but I cleaned it up, closed it, then came in here again and said, show it to me again. And it's not cleaned up anymore. It's almost like it re-scripts it every time. Whatever this view is.
Cool. Well, thanks for proving that out to pedantic Derek.
Awesome. Alrighty. It's probably someone else's presentation going on now. Probably should go. Oh, is there something going on stage now? Must be. All right. Thanks, everyone.